It's time for the two-ring, two-cage blood and guts match. And oh no, run for your lives. Moxley's got a board with nails in it. But wait, we can defeat him by slamming him on. And Ibushi, you moonsault on him. And that way, we'll be able to defeat him, but we won't be able to stop Moxley. He'll just get a bigger board with bigger nails. And even though we'll slam him harder, Ibushi will moonsault him harder. We still won't be able to stop him because he'll just get a bigger board with bigger nails, bigger slams, bigger moonsaults, but then he'll get a board with nails so big that one moonsault from Ibushi will destroy us all. Anyway, I'm John Retton with my review of AEW Dynamite Blood and Guts from the TD Garden in Boston, Massachusetts. About 9,000 people cheering and screaming their hearts out, and yeah, I'll tell you how I felt about that match in due course. I was enjoying some of the show. They were cooking. They were cooking for a while. They really were cooking. Hey, maybe I'll surprise you. Maybe I'll say I really like him. You actually won't goddamn know how I feel because I'm going to be as transparent as possible. But yeah, after Hangman Page returned with a board with a nail in it, Moxley said, I'm going to up that. I'm going to do this. I'm going to get a board. I'm going to get a whole bunch of nails, like giant screwdriver nails and all this and everything. And the double ring setup, it was nice. Reminded me of the Fall Brawl pay-per-view, the War Games concept. They can't call it War Games. Baltimore plays. Then we get a video of Jack Perry, who really does look a lot like his dad. I mean, you see him in that desert setting for whatever reason. A limo arrives, and then Beethoven's Fifth plays. Interesting choice. Okay. And then Hook gets a pop. And Jack couldn't even scare a little kid during his entrance. That was funny. To be fair, that kid is about as tall as Jack Perry. So we get Hook. It's about the best you're going to get against Jack Perry. FTW Championship. You know, that title really didn't mean jack shit in ECW. And the crowd is up early. Jack with a different look and being more heelish. This is a positive, this is a positive step forward as far as his heel run. He was embracing the heel persona. They went into the crowd in the first match. Good job. Jack healing it up. Of course, Shark Week, by the way, is starting this Sunday. Not that you would know, because it's not like AEW wasn't advertising the shit out of that, and TNT wasn't advertising the shit out of it. But anyway, a T-bone toss to the floor. I thought Jack broke his arm. It's a good job there. A DDT on the floor. Hook beats the count. A German, and then he pops up. He's like, oh, fuck this. He hits a couple Germans. And then, he pulled up on a 3 count. It was Paul Turner, and then Paul got knocked down. And Paul isn't Paul anymore. He's Super Paul. That's an old reference. And then a low blow and an elbow for 2. And then the belt gets involved. The referee gets shoved down again. And then we get a belt shot. And 1, 2, 3. Jack Perry gets the victory. Taz is pissed. He's very short-tempered in general. And there we go. That's not a bad start. I mean, the FTW Championship doesn't mean anything. What else could you really do with Hook? They've been telling the story since before Forbidden Door, but they kicked it off, or kicked it in high gear, Forbidden Door, and there we are. And then Marvez was trying to ask Jericho and Callis what was going on. They were in a restaurant. That's not the only restaurant scene we get, because we go to Cole and MJF at a Chinese restaurant. It's not Mongolians, but Mongolians. I'm sorry, except I'm not. Spicy food, they drink a lot. MJF channeling Hogan's exaggerations about Andre, but replacing Andre with Big Billy Willie. And then they mention, oh, we're going to hit the double clothesline. They're doing all this, and it's all great. And then Marvez basically gets shoved to the side by Callis and Jericho. Why is Alex Marvez still there? Why? So it's like, is Jericho going to be in Don Callis' family? Because he's trying so hard to be Bobby Heenan, when Bobby Heenan now is still better than Don Callis. And Bobby Heenan has unfortunately been dead for a few years. So, Brooke Baker Brett Baker beat Kayla Sparks. Let me just... I know that Kayla Sparks is somebody that they featured for a bit, and I don't know why. I don't know why they suddenly brought her. I guess she's a local. Kayla got in a few shots, and then Brett beat her with the lockjaw, violently fingering her and getting the victory. And then Renee was with Cole and MJF. We only need plan A, and that's to hit that double clothesline. Unlike Sammy and his skank wife, we don't need a plan B. That was funny. I also give their marriage 2 years. So anyway, they have matching gear, and Roddy is pissed or gassy. Hard to tell with Roddy because he's not the best at conveying his emotions or doing promos. Jericho's out here to join commentary. Cole had a surprise for MJF, a mashup theme, and this was MJF just overselling the fuck out of it. MJF and Cole against Sammy and Garcia. And it's the Queeful Lottery Finals. It was what it was. There was a dance-off, which I should have hated, but MJF made the most of it. Cole dances better than I do, I will say that much. The disco music, that was hilarious. And then we got some good stuff here. It's more about just MJF taking a beating, getting the hot tag to Cole, getting the hot tag to Cole after doing a fall and then hitting Sammy right in the Spanish God. And then Sammy hits a double Spanish fly. It looks like they're going to, maybe possibly get the finish without hitting a double clothesline, but they keep getting... They are going to go for a finish, and they really want to hit that double clothesline, or MJF does, and then it doesn't quite work. And then MJF hits a tope and gets a huge pop. And then we get the double clothesline. 1, 2, 3. Big pop on a double clothesline. And Sammy and Garcia blow Jericho off, that is. Cole is handed the world title, briefly teases, MJF turns around and, what the hell are you doing? I'm the champion and everything. And he, Cole's like, no, I was going to hand it back to you. They hug it out, but MJF has that cold look in his eye. Now, it's possible that Cole and MJF may end up becoming the tag team champions, but I really think it's going to be MJF friggin' screwing over Cole. Or maybe they have Cole join MJF and they haven't beat not necessarily his lackey, but his right-hand man. And Cole takes the ring from Roddy takes the ring from MJF when, it's like, no, don't do that. And then he hits Roddy. In fact, that's probably going to happen on Collision. On the 29th, FTR come out to a big pop. FTR have history with MJF. And there we are. We get Collision recaps. Owen Hart figures that are available, I assume, at shopaew.com. The best friends in Statlander, who forgot her pants. Boy, Statlander looked terrific. Orange Cassidy is unfortunately also there. Darby and Nick Wayne. Royal Rampage. I'm debating whether I want to watch that 2-ring battle royal just because. I don't know. And Darby says, hey, Orange, we're cool with each other. I got a buddy, AR Fox, that took care of me when I was homeless. Can you give him an international championship shot? And Orange Cassidy says, sure. Now, that's a good thing that AR Fox did. That shows what kind of stand-up individual he is. I don't know how that equates to a title shot. And also involves Orange Cassidy. Nevertheless, here's Chompy with, Chompy, the Shark Week mascot. And he's behind the announcers, the 2-ring battle royal on Rampage, Blood and Guts package, and the rules run down. So we have 2 men start. That's a 5-minute interval, and then every 3 minutes thereafter, somebody enters. The Blackpool Combat Club and Friends to get the advantage because they're the heels by default, I guess. We have 55 minutes left for all this, is what I noted. So Claudio makes his theme. He's very, very Swiss. Very, 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 very Swiss. Very, 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 very Swiss. Very, 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 very Swiss. Now you can't unhear it, folks. You're welcome. And then Omega comes out to a pop. So the crowd is up for this. So as the Blackpool Combat Club, it is Claudio, Moxley, Yuta, Takeshita, and Pac. He is the Paxter. against the Golden Elite. So it was Omega, the Bucks, Hangman, and Ibushi making his first appearance in the wrestling ring. Well, on a big stage. I think he's had like a couple matches this year. I don't know doing what, but I believe he's done stuff. I think maybe he was part of that blood sport thing that Josh Barnett, but nevertheless. So, blood and guts, can't call it war games. And Rick Knox is a referee with wrist tape. That's unusual. I wonder why. Wonder why the referee has wrist tape. Almost like something could have been hidden in there. So that being said, this is what I wrote down at the beginning. If they can use the ring, use the cage as the weapon that it is, since they're surrounded by a goddamn weapon on, in two rings, multiple sides, bash each other into it, tell a story through great impact, just do that and beat each other up like they did in the old days and even into the 90s, then they could make something work. They could make this work even with the amount of time that they are being given. Because there was I think it started, there were 49 minutes left in the actual broadcast, and I think they had a 3-minute overrun, so they went 50 plus minutes with this, with the aftermath and everything and all that stuff. And that's what I said. They could pull this off. It's gonna be a tough task, but they could pull it off. Now Omega and Claudio start off. Use this ring, because they started in the ring towards the stage, and then they use the other ring. And this, they were actually wrestling. I mean, I don't really care for Omega's work necessarily, but with the right person, he can do good. Him and Claudio in a one-on-one match might not actually be the worst thing, is what I noted. Pac comes out next, we go to break, and then Hangman comes out either during the break or once the break was done. I had to fast forward through the break, and I just, did what I could. I wrote down what I could, because there was a lot of shit going on here, and also this is a long match. I had to shave during that. I think I had a birthday during this match. 10 minutes in, it's not bad, it's energized. I'm like, okay, it's fine for what it is. Use the weapon as a cage. Good old Rich used the weapon as a ladder, Brennan. And then. I was actually somewhat enjoying this. Now, I was like, when is the other shoe going to drop? Here's Mox. He comes out, and now it's a 3-on-2 advantage. Okay, Mox is out, wild thing, make my heart sing. And then he's got the screwdriver, and he's also got a fork, and they start stabbing their opponents, and I said, and it's instantly one of the worst matches that AEW has put on all year. But oh ho 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 ho, it got a whole lot worse. This is where I basically I was really starting to get mad, because I'm sorry, you are surrounded by a weapon, a giant cage. If you get a chair involved, I'm going to bring a chair in, okay, you bring a chair in, bring a kendo stick, maybe you bring a pair of handcuffs to do something. Fine. Why do you need a screwdriver? Oh, because it started with a screwdriver, and it was stupid that it started with a screwdriver. Don't use a fork. You're not Abdullah the Butcher. Even though Mox does kind of look like a walking case of hepatitis, but I digress. Jeez. It was going so well. And then Moxley comes out and fucks the whole thing up, because Moxley, who can actually wrestle, has apparently just abandoned all that. He just doesn't care anymore. And then we get the forks being used, the screwdrivers being used. And then Moxley goes, there's this area by the ring with the stage where there's this little box and this stuff under the ring, and he gets this bucket. Oh, he gets this bucket. He's going to hit somebody in the head with a plastic bucket. And then it's got broken glass. Why? You fucking Moxley's a fucking dad. This is what his kid's going to grow up seeing. He's getting paid how much money to do this shit? This is embarrassing. A bucket with broken glass. Why? One of the Bucks comes out. I don't know who. I was just pissed the fuck off at this point. Because I hate when WWE involves a whole bunch of goddamn weapons in a War Games match when you're surrounded by a fucking cage. I hate when they do it, and then AEW has to go over the goddamn top because somebody just has to be a big old fan of ECW, even though people were paralyzed in ECW, especially afterwards, Because all the shit that Paul Heyman got them to do, and all this stuff, and yes, it's supposed to be the blow up, but they had Anarchy in the Arena that could have been a blow up, but no, we can't do that. This was worse than Anarchy in the Arena, which went on for a while. This went on twice as long. We go to another break. Yuta, by the way, is out there. I believe he had a chair. I think he had a chair. I don't give a shit at this point. And then Takeshita comes out with a chair. Takeshita already is cooled off completely. Callis joins commentary, so already this is even worse. Moxley brings out a board with nails in it. It was at this point that I said, somebody needs to smack him over the goddamn back of the head with that shit. This is literally just not, this is not wrestling, because deathmatch wrestling isn't wrestling. It's never been wrestling. And Moxley can work, but you know what? At this point, I'm sick of Moxley. And then, what the hell are we doing, Shivani asked. I concur. I am wondering the same thing. Tony Khan is pissing away an opportunity to build something big. Because this is the third blood and guts they've done. Nobody went off the goddamn cage to the goddamn floor. Because I don't think anybody in this, maybe besides Yuta, would have taken that bump. And then Ibushi comes out to a big pop. Cool. Okay, Ibushi, his first big match on a big stage in almost 2 years. It's actually hard to believe that besides a couple of appearances, he has not been on any kind of big stage since injuring his shoulder really badly. And then Wheeler. Wheeler during this gets out to attack Ibushi. And Ibushi lays him out. One of the Bucks gets it. Great door locks there. Great job, referees. Great job. Great fucking job. Maybe Rick Knox's stupidity rubbed off on you all. One of the Bucks and Yuta, during the break, by the way, are climbing up. They're climbing up to the top. And I think it is Matt Jackson that does the series of Northern Lights or whatever, and they tease going over. And Mox is bleeding a ton. I mean, Mox had been bleeding for a while at this point, but I just noted it. And then a moonsault that Ibushi does, a standing moonsault while Moxley is on the board with the nails in it, and he hurts his hand. Because Ibushi apparently is a fucking idiot. I mean, and yes, Ibushi has done questionable shit over in Japan as far as the comedy aspect of stuff. But I have respected the shit that he's done in New Japan. And the murder Ibushi and just the dark look that he gets and the fact that he can work. He can do stuff. And this was a terrible way to introduce him. I get what they were going for. For the fans that care about the Golden Elite and all that stuff. And I put over, Omega and Ibushi against the Bucks at Strong Style Evolve 2018. One of my favorite matches of that year. Even as somebody that is not the biggest fan of 3 of those 4 people. We still have 20 minutes is what I know. This is after Ibushi did the moonsault on the board. Fuck, this is what I wrote down. This is one of the worst matches of the goddamn year. They are simultaneously hurting each other, but also a lot of the shit they're doing is making wrestling look bad. A trash can comes out during the break. Fitting, because this entire thing should have gone in the fucking trash. One Buck and Yuta, by the way, are at the top. I misspoke here. I don't really goddamn care. They fought on the stage and then they fought up top. So all these spots are mixing together. We get a Red Cross plug during this, which is both funny and gross, but nevertheless, I could overlook that. That's the least egregious thing about this match. And then whatever Buck was up there. It was a shame he wasn't assumed into heaven at that goddamn point. But he has a bag. Somehow there's a bag with tacks that he dumps through the thing. Through the openings in the cage. And then we get bumps in the tacks. Because the one thing I hate about Mick Foley's career is that he popularized the thumbtacks. That's the one thing I hate. That is something that I wish had not happened actually in the Hell in a Cell match in hindsight, even though I get why, but We get tables. We want fire. Yeah, well, somebody should have set the TD Garden on fire at this point. I was prepared to see that happen and see everybody escape safely and just make sure that this cage was burned to a cinder so nobody could ever have a match like this again, but they're going to make it an annual thing. We get a 10-way and everybody's by this time is really tired. Mox gets Jesus. Mox gets, Mox is still bleeding. All this weird stuff's going on. We get these fucking he gets his blood on the camera by kissing the camera. At this point, somebody needs to slap him, and I mean somebody in a position of power. Tony Khan doing that would be hilarious. Claudio accidentally hits Pac, and Pac says, "Oh fuck it, I want to leave. Oh, nobody will let me leave. Here's some convenient bolt cutters. Let me clip myself out." And then he leaves, and then Callis pulls Takeshita while everybody's beating up on Yuta, and a couple people manage to handcuff Moxley, and Moxley is watching Yuta get beat up, and then he's getting hung with a chain, and the camera totally misses this because the camera's trying to film about 15 people doing 20 other things, and they miss Moxley surrendering, so Yuta, the little string bean, doesn't get killed and hung up there in Boston. So yeah, the Golden Elite win. I don't want to see any of these fuckers in the ring anymore. I don't want to see anything involving them. I don't even want to see Claudio, and I love Claudio. This was an abomination. This was a desecration of professional wrestling. I would say the same thing if WWE did. I would say the same thing if New Japan did it. Fuck every single person involved in this goddamn. This was terrible. Fucking terrible. Hate it. And I liked the first 10 or so minutes. They were doing some stuff. And Moxley just has to do his weapons because he feels that this is wrestling and it's not. And if I'm Warner Bros. Discovery, I am drastically, turning the wheels in my head and maybe considering, maybe we don't need to be doing this. Maybe we need to just lower the, the guaranteed money and lower the number of years until we can get this wrestling program, this wrestling company to actually show some restraint. I don't see how this is advertised. I know it's wrestling, and I'm not saying I didn't expect blood and guts. But you could make it a hell of a cage match without involving so much bullshit weaponry. Because all they did was just take away any momentum that this feud had, which wasn't much, because this entire feud has been terrible. I hated this. So yeah, I look forward to getting hated in the comments, even though it's just if you like this match, fine. This was an abomination. Agree, disagree what I said, like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Ricklin. I'll see you soon.